Okay, 73b, Daniel 11, starting at verse we'll start at verse 20. I left off at verse 19. Daniel 11, very complicated. I will do extensive research and notes on this chapter, and this may take a month or two because it seems very confusing to me. But first, let's get through the reading of word for word. To have that, I'm going to read the whole Bible through for people maybe hearing impaired, sight impaired or whatever. And then we'll get to the explanation later, and you can compare the notes with the actual words. Daniel 11, verse 20, and there must stand up in his position one who is causing an exactor to pass through the splendid kingdom. And in a few days he will be broken, but not in anger, nor in warfare. And there must stand up in his position one who is to be despised, and they will certainly not set upon him the dignity of the kingdom. And he will actually come in during a freedom from care and take hold of the kingdom by means of smoothness. And as regards the arms of the flood, they will be flooded over on account of him, and they will be broken, as will also the leaders of the covenant. And because of their allying themselves with him, he will carry on deception and actually come up and become mighty by means of a little nation. During freedom from care, even into the fatness of the jurisdictional district, he will enter in and actually do what his fathers and the fathers of his fathers have not done: plunder and spoil, and goods he will scatter among them. And against fortified places he will scheme out his schemes, but only until a time. And he will rouse his power and his heart against the king of the south with a great military force. And the king of the south, for his part, will excite himself for the war with an exceedingly great and mighty military force. And he will not stand, because he will scheme out against his schemes. And the very ones eating his delicacies will bring his breakdown. And as for his military force, it will be flooded away, and many will certainly fall down slain. And as regards these two kings, their heart will be inclined to doing what is bad. And at one table a lie is what they will keep speaking. But nothing will succeed, because the end is yet for the time appointed. And he will go back to his land with a great amount of goods, and his heart will be against the covenant. And he will act effectively and certainly go back to his land at the time appointed. He will go back, and he will actually come against the south, but it will not prove to be at the last the same as at the first. And there will certainly come against him the ships of Kittim, Kittum, and he will have to become dejected. And he will actually go back and hurl denunciations against the Holy Covenant and act effectively. And he will have to go back and will give consideration to those leaving the Holy Covenant. And there will be arms that will stand up, proceeding from him, and they will actually profane the sanctuary, the fortress, and remove the constant feature. And they will certainly put in place the disgusting thing that is causing desolation. And those who are acting wickedly against the covenant, he will lead into apostasy by means of smooth words. But as regards the people who are knowing their God, they will prevail and act effectively. And as regards those having insight among the people, they will impart understanding to the many. And they will certainly be made to stumble by sword and by flame, by captivity and by plundering for some days. But when they are made to stumble, they will be helped with a little help. And many will certainly join themselves to them by means of smoothness. And some of those having insight will be made to stumble, in order to do a refining work because of them, and to do a cleansing, and to do a whitening, until the time of the end, because it is yet for the time appointed. And the king will actually do according to his own will, and he will exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and against the God of gods. He will speak marvelous things, and he will certainly prove successful until the denunciation will have come to a finish, because the thing decided upon must be done. And to the God of his fathers he will give no consideration, and to the desire of women and to every other god he will give no consideration. But over everyone he will magnify himself. So he's turning his back from God and from women. I'm guessing that means he's atheist, or worse than that, anti-God and homosexual. I've heard before the Antichrist was going to be homosexual. I forgot where I read it, but maybe they're talking about the Antichrist. And to the desire of women and to every other god he will give no consideration, but over everyone he will magnify himself. But to the God of fortresses, in his position he will give glory, and to a god that his fathers did not know he will give glory, by means of gold, and by means of silver, and by means of precious stone, and by means of desirable things. And he will act effectively against the most fortified strongholds, along with a foreign god. Whoever has given him recognition, he will make abound with glory. So whoever supports him, he will reward with great wealth. And he will actually make them rule among many. And the ground he will apportion out for a price. So whoever helps him rise to the top, he will reward and make them governors of certain areas that he chooses, as long as they pay taxes. And in the time of the end of the king of the south will engage with him. And in the time of the end, the king of the south will engage with him in a pushing, and against him the king of the north will storm with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he will certainly enter into the lands and flood over and pass through. He will also actually enter into the land of the decoration, and there will be many lands there that will be made to stumble. But these are the ones that will escape out of his hand: Edom and Moab, and the main part of the sons of Ammon. And he will keep thrusting out his hand against the lands. And as regards the land of Egypt, she will not prove to be an escapee. And he will actually rule over the hidden treasures of the gold and the silver, and over all the desirable things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians will be at his steps. But there will be reports that will disturb him out of the surprising and out of the north. I'll have to stop right there.